Hi and welcome to Coast Box Office. Just another video for you, just refreshing how to set up and maintain your events. There have been quite a few enhancements to the system since our last video on events. So this one is just a recap and to bring you up to date on what's new. Now obviously you do have to be logged on as an agent, and you will have your agents menu across the top. We go into events. I'm just going to have a recap on quick events. You can see it's got quick event promo. If you're not actually going to be creating actual exhibitions, or you're not ready to ticket your event yet, you can create a promotional event. And this is just a way of getting your event up and starting to build some social media and marketing traction for your event. So I'll just quickly take you through this. This is probably the quickest and easiest way of doing it. It's a single form here, and you simply just it defaults to your current brand. Now we, as Coast Box Office, we have a lot of different brands that are operating. But normally you just have your own brand. Your promotional venue, you can select your venue if you know your venue, where it's going to be. Your name of your event, and AKA, this is if you're going to start using hashtags, or there's going to be some sort of acronym or abbreviation, or maybe your event's known as something else, then you can put any number of those in here, and that just helps identify that event. It gives the system a bit more context to know what your event's about. Obviously a headline and some basic synopsis information for your event. Now if the event's going to be produced by a different company, then you might want to actually put the name in here. And the reason for that is that it may, whilst you might be promoting the event, you might be doing it in tandem with another brand that you haven't set up yet, or it's just a way of saying who's actually presenting the event if it's someone other than you, and you don't necessarily just want to worry about setting them up as a separate brand. You can actually type that name in here, and that will be shown under under presented by when the event is actually shown. Are there any production credits? Now this is slightly different to what we had before. We can enter names or directors or supporting acts or anything additional that we need to list. And normally this is an obligation under the license, but it's also I think important that you do factor in people that are associated with the event that give it some context. We have some new audience metrics, your target audience, and we have some default audience age groups. It's really just target age here. We can put a content warning in as well. Obviously there's more available that we can do under the actual event, but this is just quickly setting something up. So there's content warning, I don't know, strobe effects, language, that sort of stuff. You can actually type it in here what the actual warning, parental guidance recommended, something like that. Is this part of a season? Now we're seeing a lot more, obviously, as we go at the time of this video. We're about to click over into 2023. So there are a lot of companies that are advertising their 2023 seasons, and there's no reason why you can't use seasons simply as an umbrella heading for your entire year and put everything under it. You don't have to set any pricing. It's literally just an umbrella and an additional way of advertising your collection of shows and events that are happening through a particular time period. Your promotional start and end dates, obviously when the thing start and ends, it's optional, but if you really want to get some traction, you really should start putting some dates in. Promotional header, if you don't know the dates, then you can just type a promotional header, and you could say like November 2023 here if you don't know the dates yet, the actual dates. Obviously as you start to move with the heading, it will evolve. You'll start putting some dates in, you'll start putting some exhibitions in, and things like that to really build some solid context. Here's the link. Where are we actually sending people to? Because we need to send people somewhere. We can't just have the listing and it does nothing, particularly if you're not ready to sell tickets yet. And normally you'd send that to your publicity page. It could even just be your Facebook announcement. It could be anything, but where are we actually sending people to for more information? And what do we call that? It defaults to tickets, but it could just be more info. We could just put in more info like that, and that's basically the label that appears over the top of this particular link as to where we're sending people, and a picture. You don't have to have a picture, but you really should to draw attention. You will get a default image if you don't put one up, but we strongly recommend that you do. adhere to the aspect ratio here, and upload a picture, and that's it. It'll just create it and it will go live as long as, now that's not going to do it at the minute because I still haven't put some details in, but that's a quick and dirty way of just really getting an event up and starting to build some traction. Then you can start building more around it as you go. But what we'll do is I'll just go into Coast Box Office, if I can find it in my list, Coast Box Office here, and just go new event. And if you're actually creating an event and you want every option available and you really want to put some detail in, then this is where you go to create it. You actually create it under the existing brand. And I'll just take you through what's new on this. Obviously we have our name, we have the also known as, which is exactly the same as we just saw. Our event status, it's advisable to leave it as TBA, to be advised, until you're actually ready to go on it. You'll notice there's cancelled there as well, and we can have confirmed. What cancel does is it still leaves the event up, but it actually labels it as cancelled so people can see this entire event as cancelled. And we do that because if you make it TBA, all of a sudden it disappears. It's not there anymore. And it's very, very polite if you've already had an event up to show that it's cancelled rather than just have it disappear. So you can give it the cancel status. The event type, obviously, you would have seen this before. What is it? A show, an exhibition, a performance, whatever the default name. It defaults to show, but you can put whatever you like in there. Genres, this has changed a little bit. We can actually have multiple genres in the system, and we just put them in as we do with also known as names. We can have any number of these, and it's really adds some nice context to the event. Event style, we've expanded on these. And these are actual known styles that are, I won't go into too much detail, but if you're talking about search engine optimization or SEO as it's known, then these are the styles of events that are widely supported and known. So rather than leaving it as default event, we really encourage you to pick the type of event that your event actually is, to give it some real definition. If it's a screening event, if it's comedy, if it's children's, dance, music, theatre. Obviously, a lot of events will just be theatre, but you can pick visual arts events, festivals. Those are the ones that are supported. They're not specific to us. This is just the wider context of and as the SEO schemas evolve, well, we make more of that information available for you to set. The ribbon tag, you'll be familiar with that. What is that? A little tag that sits on the top right of your listing. If you don't put anything in there, the system will work out what to put in there and put something in there for you. The setting and period, like where is your show set? If it's a performance, it's good to indicate the setting and the period. Gives people a little more context, and also gives your listing some more topic authority when it comes to search engine optimization. The original year that it was on, published, obviously that's those are optional. Your target audience, we looked at target audience just a few moments ago. These are the age ranges. These are set. They're pretty general. We can add more, but just pick the ones that's appropriate, or just leave it as to anyone. Your content warning, and we also have a flag here that says it contains explicit violence, drug, nudity, or sexual themes. So as well as your content warning here, we actually have a flag. And while it's not compulsory, you should really consider flagging that if your event does really push these themes. And what that will do is that will just make sure that it only appears to appropriate audiences and not goes out to everyone. That's really the whole idea of that restriction, just to give people a real heads up that this is some rated content. The headline and synopsis, pretty standard stuff. Under promotion, we have this blurb at the top here, which you should really have a read of it. Public listing or not. If it's a private listing, turn it off. All SEO is disabled. It's not published. You obviously can still link to it and still use it to book. However, it's not advertised on the site. Public listing is the default for everything. Your custom URL, pretty self-explanatory. It obviously gives you a code. There's your custom link to this show event. You can type whatever you want in there. As long as it hasn't been used before, it'll let you use it. Your brand, obviously we're making this under Coast Box Office and it puts it under the brand here, but we can change this later. This is new, co-brand. So if you're actually doing this with another brand, you can select it in here and it will say Coast Box Office, and then it will say in association with, in this case, Barefoot Theatre. And that's if you are doing it in association. Only one other associative brand is permitted in the system. Season listing, used as part of an umbrella season, and you can put that in here. So from this point down, we're back in that promotional territory where we haven't really got actual exhibitions at this point. We're just putting a start and end date for our promoted start and end run, and a minimum maximum tickets. So we might say between $40 and $70 for tickets. Now obviously if we actually have tickets and we are selling tickets and we actually have exhibitions, it knows all this information here. And once we do start creating exhibitions and tickets, you'll notice this bit here is grayed out. It doesn't actually have it, because it's getting this information from another part of the system, which is the actual ticket price and the actual run of the show. But until we actually start putting these in, or if you just want to use this to promote an event and not which is on sale elsewhere, then you put this information in to give it some really good context. And I really suggest that you put the promotional run in and also the tickets runs, because that really passes some very valuable information off to the likes of Google and other search engines that start to index this event. The promotional tag, obviously if we don't have anything here, we can say coming soon if we don't know this information here, and this is only used if this information here is missing, the promotional tag. And obviously we can select a venue for this, which is optional, but it's really good to put it in because it adds a whole lot of extra context. But obviously we have to have had that venue set up first, and that's under the seating menu up the top. So it is advisable to put it in. It's real simple stuff to set up a venue, but you don't have to set up the seating and everything to have a venue. You can just set up a basic venue. But it is advisable to tie it into an actual venue, because that gives this listing location context. When people are looking for shows near them, it pushes this information off the search engines. It gives it some real location context, and that's really quite important when it comes to developing topic authority with your listing. Obviously, of course, once we do have exhibitions which themselves carry a venue, this becomes redundant. So we're really only looking at putting this in before we have created the exhibitions in the system. Web and social media, your event information, and this is where we want to put the main link to your event information. This is your homepage, this is your company's page. This is where we're pushing people that want to get more contextual information outside of the system. If you're selling your tickets on another platform, this is where you put the address right in here, and this is what you call it. And you can see book tickets here. We can just call tickets, tickets or more info or whatever it is. That's the label that gets put on this link here. All right, so that's the main link before we actually start creating exhibitions, and it's the same link that we saw when we created the quick promo over here. General information. In order to give your event context, so if you're doing a show that is a known show, and let's say Les Miserables, all right, we need to be able to tell search engines and the like what this actually is, other than just the title. So this is where we would look up Les Miserables, say on Wikipedia, and we would copy the link to the Les Miserables musical page on Wikipedia and paste it in here, right? You can see there's quite a few Wikipedia entries. Is say Phantom of the Opera, for example. So that's the link to the Phantom of the Opera musical page on Wikipedia. And we put that in there, and that's really important because Google comes along and looks at our listing, and we specifically push this link out to Google to say, hey Google, this is what this thing is, and Google already knows about it. And I said, hey Google, and my Google device has just sparked up. But it's really important that we do this. It also puts a little info link on the listing itself, which users can then look at to see what it actually is, and that's important. I mean, never assume that your visitors to the system know the work that you're promoting. So put a general link that is known, and what this does is this binds this listing to that more authoritative source of information for this particular event that you're doing. Obviously, if it's your own show, say you're doing a tribute act, let's say you're doing a Queen tribute act, then make the general information, the Queen home website or something like that. And what that does is that binds it to that to say, well, this is associated with this entity, and Google treats it with a lot more authority or respect rather. as a valid link. Social media, we do have a website for this event, and this is different from the brand because brands themselves and venues have their own links and websites and Facebook pages and things like that. So this is just for the event. If it's particular to the event, a lot of professional events these days have their own Facebook page, which is different from the brand, and the Instagram and Spotify playlists and things like that. So this is where we put links that are specific to this actual event itself. There's no need to put them in here if you've already got the links under your brand page and you don't have anything that's specific to the event itself. Things like IMDb, that's actually pretty good because that's another credible source of information, similar to what we had up here under general information. Any reference material, for shows, you're looking at the actual site that holds the rights, that gives the reference material that is actually a useful resource, particularly if you haven't even had auditions yet. It's useful to put a reference material link up, and it might be to your own information package as to where it is, but that leads people directly to your resource in just from a central place where actors or people that are interested in the more sort of nuts and bolts of what it is that you're doing can find that information. Here we can post the YouTube ID. This is not the full link to the YouTube. It's if you look at YouTube links, you'll always see this little, it's got it here, V equals. So it's the code that comes up after V equals. You just post that YouTube code in there, and it'll just automatically embed the video for you. With audio, it's just a link to an audio file. So you've got to have the audio file actually hosted somewhere. Doesn't get a lot of use, but some people do want to post some sort of music or some sort of commentary on their listing, so you need to have uploaded, it might have put it on your own website. It's just a link to that MP3 file or WAV file or whatever it is, and it will construct a player so that people can actually play the media on the listing without you having to do anything else. Additional, this is kind of new. We didn't have these flags last time. These flags, I'll come back to this part in a minute, but these event flags are set. We do review them. So, for example, if you have dates of TBA, you can just put that dates of TBA in there, and that just means that it sets them as to be advised, and it shows that to people that dates are TBA. So rather than just putting no dates in, we can actually flag it to say the dates are to be advised, and it just shows a little flag to say that the dates are TBA. Things like BYO permitted for outdoor events. Casting now should mean that the event's been casting. You can see we have, I think this is the only one with a timeout flag on it, so we can actually set a date. So we say I expect to have casting done, say, by the 1st of January. And what this will do, once we get to the 2nd of January, it'll automatically remove this flag, excuse me, off the listing. So there's a few other things here. If something's educational, if it's a tour event, if it's a premiere, free entry, that sort of stuff, and it just puts those outdoor venue, family friendly. There's all these sort of things that reading for like play readings events. It just gives people a bit of extra context as to what this event actually is. And I will come back to this in a sec. Down here, ticketing information. This is the information for this event that appears on the ticket. So it's additional information for this event that only appears on the ticket itself when people are actually have bought a ticket, and your own internal notes if there's something you want to capture for your own internal private use here. The producer up the top. Now we saw this in the other, when we looked at the promo event. This is the same thing, and this will actually override the presented by XYZ listing that is generated from if we look at the brand, which is here. So currently we've got a brand and a co-brand, but if we type something in here, it's going to override the brand and co-brand when it's shown or displayed. So it may be this particular wording, or there's a particular combination of brands or people that you are obligated to have as the producer, or presented by. That's where you type it. Production credits we saw there. If you want directed by, written by, look, it's always good for shows to put, if there's a writer, to credit the writer, to credit the director, or anyone. Don't obviously go overboard. There's no point in putting cast in here because it's a place for cast, and this is something that's new. if we know the name of a cast member, we can type the cast members in here, cast member's name in here, and we can do a whole series of them if we're just listing names. But what's new is bios, and under your agencies here, you can actually set up biographies. And here what we do is we can, I've just put myself in here, we can go turn it on, and we can optionally say, you can just have, like, you know, they're the star of the show or the role that they're in, and that will automatically contextualize this person in this role with this particular show. And this is really good for house talent and people that we're rolling through various shows, because we only have to set them up once. We can set them up with a bio. So if I go up to here, the bio, we can see that we have the name, the brand that they're associated with, which is their affiliated brand. And again, once we start doing this, it pushes this information off to Google. So anyone that searches for this person will actually find the show that they're in. You can activate the bio. Obviously, we obviously do the bio text, and we can do some links, and we can also do an image associated with that as well, which is really, really helpful when we are creating a new event, that we have those people that we can simply just flick a switch, and we go back to here, we just flick a switch, we say what their role is. You can do this for directors, you can do this for choreographers, musical directors, or any role that's associated with the show. It doesn't have to be cast. So we can do a combination. People that we don't have bios for yet, we can simply just name, and it will just say they're featured people. It says here featured cast people. It doesn't specifically say cast on the listing, but it's where we can actually list people, and it will give them a credit on the main page for that show. So 2 places if you do have bios, and for most productions you will start to get some bios in, and I would say for your headliners it's a great way to promote them in association with the show, because it really pushes that information out to the likes of Google and search engines, and really gives it some context, and it's a great way to credit people when they are involved in the show. And obviously imaging is right here, and there are image constraints on this image. If you don't put an image in, it uses a default image, but we really suggest don't put too much actual detail on the image, because obviously things change. Rely on the the dates and the other bits here to give it context, because the thing is with images, the image text and image doesn't get indexed. It doesn't get it has zero value when it comes to SEO. So use the fields more than the image itself. Personally, I like an image that really draws people in, that sort of sells the story of the event, the show, and it's like a magazine front cover. Person's face, something engaging, something interesting, but don't put too much text, or don't put any text at all, really. I wouldn't recommend it on the image. Just go for a nice image that really draws people in, and then rely on the system to present the rest of the image, which is what it's designed to do very effectively, both as the visual, both as a summary on the main page, then on the detailed page, but more specifically on the search engine information that it pushes out, and also feeds our RSS feeds, all of our social media platforms, so your listing is appearing correctly on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Tumblr, on everywhere that we push it out to. So that is it. That's a wrap up of everything that's new and current with setting up events on Coast Box Office. Thanks.